What's going on, y'all? Straight to the point, sports and entertainment. Want y'all to hit that like button, sub to the channel if you're not a member, and also hit them notifications so that you're able to get all of my content as well as all of my videos. Now, there has been a beef that has reignited on the podcast. It's called 7 p.m. in Brooklyn with, of course, Carmelo Anthony and Melo. Pretty good podcast, by the way. Carmelo Anthony talks about the beef that had the long beef that had happened between him and former NBA head coach George Karl. And George Karl had recently took to Twitter and had talked about Melo and how what his comments, what he said in the past when Melo was a rookie playing with the Denver Nuggets. I'm going to put all of this in the description box so y'all can take a look at that link. But this is what took place. George Karl had pretty much said on Twitter, I'm not going to say it word for word, but he pretty much said he was overrated when he got there, and that even going so far as to compare him to a player such as Detlef Schrempf, okay? And that right there was low, because Carmelo Anthony coming in to Denver, people had to understand that Carmelo Anthony had won a national title, and he had won as a freshman with Syracuse, okay? That's why he was my favorite player at that time. He was my favorite player all throughout, even throughout the trials and tribulations. A lot of people didn't know that. But before that, of course, it was Bubba Chuck, okay? Then, of course, after them two, it was Russell Westbrook. I had a lot of other players that I looked at, and then before that it was Jordan, of course. But I always followed Carmelo Anthony. Now, Carmelo Anthony had mentioned all this on his podcast and everything, and pretty much was giving the backstory as to what had happened. And look, I'm gonna be real with you, right? The way that George Karl, I never really liked George Karl. I know he has some success. Of course, he has some success with the 90s, the late 90s, with the late 90s Supersonics, and then of course he had a little bit of success with the Denver Nuggets, and then also had some success, a little bit of success, but was never as successful as when he was with the Supersonics, with the Denver Nuggets, because the furthest that he made it after that was to the Western Conference Finals, and Melo was on that team. Okay, and people also got to understand this. He had said some stuff in regards to, his I'm not going to say the word comments back in the days as it pertains to, our skin pigmentation. Some people took it away, his comments, but you could go look all that up. You go Google it and stuff. But because of YouTube, I'm trying to keep everything, to a minimum here about what I say. It's crazy that we gotta watch whatever the hell we say on here. But anyways, getting back to Melo, people have to understand that it was only him, and to my recollection, D-Wade, because I count those three guys when I talk about D-Wade, when we talk about Brian and we talk about Melo, they were seen as, that 03 draft, they were seen as the top three players that everybody was pretty much focused on. And then of course they tended to just forget about D Wade and what he was doing in Miami, but they got realized that they were seeing playoff success early. LeBron wasn't. Okay, but ultimately, of course, uh, it was D Wade that won the championship first because he got that championship in '06, and then after that, then LeBron had pretty much catapulted the both of them. And of course, the knock on Melo is, he doesn't have any championships, and all he was a scorer and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I still love them as a player, man. But I say all of that to say that George Karl was on cap from the beginning, and he had Melo sadly mistaken if he thought that he was just going to be some role player coming in. We're talking about a guy that came in averaging 21, and on top of that, he made it to the playoffs, okay? Along with, with some help. I'm not going to sit here and just say that it was all Melo, but he did have a good rookie campaign. Him and LeBron were neck and neck. Okay, D Wade did his thing too. But in terms of their impact as rookies, he came in just lighten things up. So for him, for George Karl to sit up there and say that, it's just crazy. And then also one of the things that you had to appreciate about Melo when he was coming in was, okay, while he did some things that, because he did admit on there that, he was coming in with the different type of swag, and he was feeling himself and everything like that. The one thing that you couldn't take away from Melo is his ability to perform on big stages as a youth. I'm talking about when he was younger in the NBA. Because as a rookie, even though he could have just said, you know what, skip all this. LeBron is getting all the attention and everything, but he really didn't see it that way because they were actually trying to make that a storied rivalry between Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James. That was a rivalry. I saw it as a rivalry. I saw it as an individual matchup too, because they had pretty much grew up playing with one another. Now, of course, things have changed once LeBron, and his ego went through the roof and everything. I'm not trying to make this about LeBron or nothing like that, but of course, you find out sometimes who your real friends are, and I'm not going to get into that. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, with the way that Carmelo Anthony was being blackballed, and then there was this black cloud on him talking about he was uncoachable and all this other stuff or whatever. And it still hurts to this day how he was done. And I think he just wanted to put the icing on the cake, so to speak, to get that championship. But nevertheless, man, it doesn't take anything away from him. He still will be in the Hall of Fame. Still was able to accomplish some things in the NBA. George Karl, he had no right to say anything because you hadn't won any championships. Okay. Yeah, you went to a finals and everything, but of course, it was you weren't successful. So you really didn't have no right to say anything to Melo. Melo came in and he won a title. And look, I know that some people, they sit up here and they talk about what you did in college. It doesn't matter when you get to the NBA. That's true in some cases, but in a lot of cases, it's not true because, I mean, you still have something. You still know some sort of level of championship experience. It may not be at the pro level just yet, but you know what it takes to win, and you still have to go out there and you still have to compete regardless of what level that it is. And so him saying anything to Melo, that really didn't add up. Yeah, you went to the finals and everything, but you you really had a phenomenal team. You know, when we talk about a young, vibrant, athletic, uh, extremely gifted player in Sean Kemp, who if it wasn't for the weight problem and his his demons that he was fighting in terms of drug use and stuff, Sean Kemp possibly would have been one of the best power forwards to ever do it. Okay, because at that time, he was still pretty young. Then you had a Gary Payton, who was seen as one of the best premier perimeter defenders at that time in the glove, who eventually he went on to win the championship and everything, and also seen as one of the top elite point guards too. And I always forget to mention Gary Payton too. I don't know why I never forget. I always forget to put him up there as one of the great point guards too, or whatever. Don't think he gets enough credit. But anyway, and then you couple that, you're sitting up in here saying Detlef Schrempf was not a scrub either. I mean, okay, Melo was better, but Detlef Schrempf was a one of the slept on 3-pointers and very lethal, and he could also score too. Okay, he wasn't scoring as much as some of the other players, but Detlef Schrempf, he was money. As well as some other players on that team too. You had an older veteran in Sam Perkins who could still knock shots down and stuff. So it wasn't like you took a team there that really didn't have any athletes, or y'all was some Cinderella team or nothing like that. The Supersonics were a squad, and they were playing in the West during that time. A West that was really, really tough. You talking about the Utah Jazz. You talk about the Houston Rockets. You talk about even when I think the Lakers, to my recollection, they weren't as good as they were then, or in the later 2000 when they started going to the finals and everything. But they still were somewhat, they were all right. You know what I'm saying? They weren't as good as they were, when the Kobe and Shaq era had came. But the West during that time, man, they really had some really good teams out there. So for them to come out of the West, it was a great thing. And then of course, you can't say enough. With the Chicago win, they had to battle all the time. It was a battle, and then you're talking about Michael Jordan, who some people were counting out, especially after that previous year when they had got beat by the Magic. But they came back and ended up sweeping them, and eventually were able to go ahead and go to the finals. So look, man, just to get back to Melo, and when it comes to George Karl, and to close the castic on this thing, look, George Karl wants to ignite this beef again. Man, this has been well over, I think now it's been about 20 some odd years. We'd say about 21 years since that happened, because that happened in 03 when they came in. So it's been about 21 years. Let it go, man. You weren't any more successful than what Melo was, with the exception of you making it to the finals, okay? So what George Karl needs to do is really just shut the fuck up, okay, and live your life, and be glad that the NBA even gave you more opportunity than none, because you weren't a very liked coach as well as a very liked person in the NBA, okay? And I think that Melo was more, you know, he had more respect than what you ever did. You know, so y'all let me know what you think. Leave your comments. Make sure you like the video, share, subscribe. Also hit the notifications so that you are notified. Straight to the point. Sports and entertainment. I get at you later.